All right, let's go ahead and get started translating the passage for chapter 18. In this chapter, we learn about first and second declension adjectives and third declension adjectives and some rules to make sure that we translate them effectively. Adjectives in Latin generally fall in two categories. There are adjectives that can have first or second declension endings depending on the noun that they modify. For instance, if they modify a masculine noun, they'll have masculine endings like these that I'm circling here. And these are identical to the endings in the second declension, masculine. If a noun that adjective is modifying is feminine, they'll have endings like this, which are identical to the endings in the first declension, feminine. And if the noun that the adjective is modifying is neuter, it'll have endings that look exactly like the second declension neuter charts. Same thing with nouns that are in the third declension. Depending on the noun that it modifies, that noun could be masculine, feminine, or neuter. So the endings are going to change depending on the noun that it modifies. Let's go ahead and get started, but as we translate, we just want to be very careful that we correctly identify any noun-adjective pairs that may show up here. So let's get started. Raida in fossa harebat. Raida is the word for carriage in Latin. Harebat here is our verb. It's imperfect, and it's third person singular. And so you're going to translate it as was stuck. So the carriage was stuck. And where was the carriage stuck? In fossa, in the ditch. Fossa there is ablative singular and is the object of the preposition in. So the carriage was stuck in the ditch. Corneliae peruiam aebant ad caponam, quae non proco aberat. Our subject is here with Cornelii. It's masculine, nominative, and plural. Because it's plural, we would want to translate the word Cornelii here as the Cornelii family, the family of Cornelius. The Cornelii family. And what were they doing? Let's go to our verb here, aebant, which is imperfect tense and third person plural, coming from the verb io ire, the verb to go. If you don't recognize this particular form of io ire, it's relatively easy to make. You take the root of your verb, which in this case is going to just be the letter I, right? To find the root, you just want to remove the re in the infinitive form of that verb. And that leaves us with, as our root, just the letter I, which we can tack on the imperfect tense marker, the letters ba, and then our personal endings, which is the letters nt, for a third-person plural ending, leaving us with the word aebant. And that's going to be translated as was going. So the Cornelii family was going. It's imperfect tense, so you need to use the word was here to translate it. Was going. Where? Per viam, through the street. Viam there is accusative, feminine, and singular, and is the object of the preposition per. And where were they going? Ad calponam, to the inn. To the inn. And we can go ahead and clean this up. Calponam, though, is feminine, accusative, and singular, and is the object of the preposition ad. Next, quae non proco aberat. Quae is a relative pronoun that means which. It's a relative pronoun. It's referring back to the inn here. So they were going to the inn, which. And then non proco aberat. Aberat here, if you don't recognize it, is a compound verb that comes from absum abisse. A compound verb is a common verb like sum esse that is attached to a preposition like ab, and that slightly changes the meaning of this word so that it means absent or away from. The preposition ab means away, and added to the irregular verb sum esse means I am away or I am absent. And in this case, you would translate it as which, and the word here is negated, which was not far off. And then the word procal is an adverb meaning in the distance. So the Cornelii family was going through the street to the inn, which was not far off in the distance. We don't have any noun-adjective pairs so far. Let's go ahead to the next sentence. Cornelii, quae non iam lacrimabat, cum Euclide ambulabat. Cornelia here is our subject. It's feminine, accusative, and singular. Then we've got another relative clause here starting at quae non iam lacrimabat. Quae is, again, a relative pronoun. It's also feminine, nominative, and singular. This relative pronoun is acting as the subject in this clause, and it's feminine and singular because it refers back to Cornelia. It's a little more information than you need to know, but just in case you're interested. So Cornelia, who, and what was Cornelia doing? Cornelia non iam lacrimabat, who was non iam, no longer, and then lacrimabat is a word that means crying. Lacrimabat is imperfect tense, third person singular, so I've used the word was to translate it. Who was no longer crying. What was she doing instead? Ambulabat cum Euclide. Ambulabat, translated as was walking. It's also imperfect tense and third person singular. And she was walking with who? Cum Euclide. With Euclides, their tutor. Was walking with Euclides. Next sentence. Pueros quod praecorrebunt identitam revocabat Cornelius. Be careful with this sentence. The word pueros here appears first, so you may be tempted to take it as your subject, but it's actually your direct object. Pueros has a accusative and plural ending, right? See that pueros shows up here. It's accusative and plural. So this actually can't be your subject, but it's going to be your direct object. Something in this sentence is happening to the boys. Something in the sentence is happening to the boys. Let's find out what. The next clause, quod praecorrebunt, is to be translated because. The word quod in Latin just means because, and then praecorrebunt. I can recognize a couple of things in this word here. I can recognize that it's in the imperfect tense, so we've got the letters BA there. I recognize that it is third person and plural because it's ending with the letters NT. So I'm going to translate it because they were. And then I can also recognize the roots of the Latin word for run, curro, currare here, plus a prefix prae that might indicate the direction that they're running. The word praecorrere means to run ahead. So I'm going to just write because they were running ahead. It's the way that this should be translated here. I can assume that the they here refers to the boys in pueros, but again, I don't want to translate pueros as our subject because it's our direct object. So because they were running ahead, identitam revocabat Cornelius. Cornelius is the subject of the independent clause of this sentence. Cornelius was calling back identitam again and again the boys, right? And this makes sense. Revocabat is imperfect, and it's third person and singular, since Cornelius is a singular subject here. So Cornelius was calling back identitam again and again pueros, the boys, right? So it makes sense because this was their direct object. And why was Cornelius calling them again and again? Because they were running ahead. And still no noun adjective pairs. Let's go on to the next sentence. Aurelia quamquam in Capona prenactare adhuc nolebat lente cum Cornelio ibat. Aurelia here is definitely our subject. And then we've got a dependent clause right following Aurelia. Quamquam is an adverb that means although. So although. Then in Calpona is a prepositional phrase that means in and in. Calpona is ablative and singular, object of the preposition in. But we need to skip over in Calpona because we need to find out what's happening to the end. So let's go to our verb, nolebat, which means she was not wanting, because she was not wanting. Nolebat is imperfect tense, third person singular, from nolo nelle, the verb to wish or to want, to not wish or to not want in Latin. And what was she not wanting to do? To spend the night adhuc still And now we figure out how to deal with in kalpona here, in and in. Although she still was not wanting to spend the night in and in, although she was still not wanting to spend the night, pernoctare is a complementary infinitive. It complements the meaning of the finite verb no lebat, telling us what she does not want to do, right? She does not want to spend the night in an inn still. And although she did not want to spend the night, ibat, she was going. Ibat is imperfect tense, third person singular. Remember, it comes from io ire. When we find the roots of io ire, it's just the letter I, and then we can add onto it the imperfect tense markers, the letters ba, plus our personal ending, the letter t here. This gives us ibat. We're translating it, she was going lente, slowly, cum Cornelia, with Cornelius. Aurelia, although she was still not wanting to spend the night in an inn, was going slowly with Cornelius. Let's go on to the next sentence. Mox ad caponam apropinquabant. Mox is an adverb that means soon. Ad caponam is a prepositional phrase that means to the inn. And apropinquabant contains both our subject and our verb. That subject is tucked inside apropinquabant and is indicated by the letters nt there, right? It's third person plural. And in the absence of a subject, we can use the word they to translate it. It's imperfect tense. So I'm going to use the word were, so that soon they were, and then apropinquabant means approach or draw near. So soon they were approaching, and let's get rid of this word to here, since we don't really need it. It's kind of implied in the meaning of this verb. So soon they were approaching the inn. Next sentence. Neminum videbant, voces tamen hominum audiabant. We'll just take it one clause at a time. Neminum here means no one. It's not our subject though. This em ending is accusative and singular. It's a third declension noun meaning no one. Instead, our subject is contained in the verb videbant. Remember, it's got the letters nt as its ending, so you can use the word they to translate it. It's imperfect tense, so I'm going to add the word were. So they were, and then videre means seen, so they were seeing no one. They were seeing no one. Next sentence, or clause, voces tamen hominum audiebant. Audiebant, translated as they were hearing. It's the same sort of sentence as in the last one. Voces is your direct object. That es ending here could be nominative or accusative plural. But within context, it makes a lot more sense to translate it in the accusative, since that gives us our direct object. So they were hearing voices. Tamen is an adverb that means however. And then hominum here has the letters as its ending, which you would think off of first look would be accusative and singular from the second declension. Sorry, this is getting a little messy. However, hominis is a third declension masculine noun meaning man. I know it's third declension because in looking up the word in the dictionary, I see that its genitive singular form has the letters is. And if I look on the charts, the only place where we have the letters is as our genitive singular ending are in the third declension. And so this ending that I see here is actually genitive plural. And so we'll translate it as they were hearing the voices, however, of men. They were hearing the voices of men, however. And you can put the word however wherever you need to. Let's go ahead and start translating the next sentence. Subito duo canes e Janua caponai se praecipitant et ferociter latrantes Cornelius petant. This sentence is pretty long, but I think that we can handle it. The word et here, remember, is a conjunction, so we can really divide the sentence in two and translate it from subito to se praecipitant. Also looking down at the bottom of the page here, I see that se precipitant is a vocabulary word that means they hurl themselves or they rush at. So this makes it a lot easier. This particular word here is present tense and third person plural, and they've given us the definition, so we've got a little bit more to work with. Subito is an adverb that means suddenly, and then duo, I recognize, is the Latin word for two, and carnes, just like our English word canine, means dogs. That es ending could be nominative, or accusative plural. It's a third declension noun. However, I'm going to translate it in the nominative singular, taking it as our subject, because it makes a lot of sense that two dogs are going to hurl themselves a Genoa caponai. A Genoa is going to mean out of the door. Genoa here is ablative and singular, and is the object of the preposition a here, which means out of or from. Genoa is ablative and singular. And caponai is genitive and singular. That ae ending here could be genitive singular. It makes a lot of sense to say that the door itself is a part of or belongs to the inn. So suddenly, duocane, two dogs, hurl themselves out of the door, a Genoa, out of the door of the inn. Let's go into the next sentence. Et ferociter latrantes Cornelius petant. Et is just the Latin word for and. Ferociter is an adverb that means fiercely. And latrantes is a participle that means barking. So and, probably better to say barking fiercely. And then Cornelius here is our direct object. Why? Well, because that os ending there is accusative and plural. So something is happening to the Cornelii family. And that's expressed by the word petant here, which is present tense and third person plural. And since it's third person plural, I can use the word they to translate it, which I need because it doesn't seem like I have a subject in this clause. And they sought, and you could also say attack, the Cornelii family, barking fiercely. So, and barking fiercely, they sought or looked for or attacked the Cornelii family. Cornelius here are accusative plural direct object. Next sentence. Statum fugit sextus. Immediately, Sextus, that's our subject here, fled, which is from fugio, fugere, to flee. Immediately, Sextus fled. Next sentence. Stat immobilis Marcus. Marcus here is your subject. U.S. ending's definitely nominative and singular. Stat here is your verb. It's from sto stare, the verb to stand in Latin. And that T ending there makes it third person and singular. And it is present tense. So Marcus stands immobilis, motionless. Marcus stands motionless. Next sentence. Aurelia praeterita exclamat. Aurelia is your subject. And we have, at last, a adjective that modifies Aurelia. Praeterita means terrified, and it definitely modifies Aurelia because both of these words are feminine, nominative, and singular. So we've got the terrified Aurelia exclamat, shouts out. We have the terrified Aurelia shouts out. Next sentence. Cornelius ipse nihil facet. Cornelius. And then ipse here is an intensive pronoun that just means himself. Nihil is our direct object. It means nothing, literally nothing. It's an indeclinable noun, so you can make it serve whatever function you need to in the sentence. And facet here means does. It's from facio facere, which means to do or make. It's present tense, third person singular, and so it makes a lot of sense to translate the sentence as a whole. Cornelius himself does nothing. Cornelius himself does nothing. Next sentence. Cornelia tamen non fugit sed ad canes manum extended. Tamen is just an adverb, however. However, Cornelia, that's her subject. Cornelia non fugit does not flee. And then sed is the Latin conjunction but, and then extended, she extends or holds out. Then manum is your direct object here. Manum is a fourth declension noun, and here that um ending, it's an accusative singular ending, and it looks similar to the second declension, but this is going to be our direct object. So she extends a hand, ad canes, to the dogs. However, Cornelia does not flee, but she extends a hand to the dogs. Cornelia here is the only one not afraid. Ecce Marce inquit. Look, Marcus. Marce there is in the vocative, and so she's directly talking to Marcus. And inquit just means she said. Next sentence. He canes latrant modo. He canes is a vocab word that means these dogs. So these dogs. Latrant there is our verb. It's present tense, third person plural, from latro, latrare, that means bark. So these dogs are only, that's what modo means. Modo means only, are only barking. Nolum est periculum. Est here is our verb, and it just means is. Nolum means no or none, whereas periculosum means danger, danger. So you could translate this as there is no danger, or nothing is dangerous. No thing is dangerous. Next sentence. Ecce sextae. Look, sextus. Sextus there is in the vocative just like Marce here. So she's directly talking to them. Caudas movent. Caudas is the Latin word for tails. It's accusative and plural. Whereas movent is a second conjugation verb that means to move. So in this case, just think of they are wagging their tails. They are wagging or they are moving their tails. Io ipso tempore ad Januam Caponai apparuit homo abesus qui canes revocavit. Io ipso tempore is a Latin idiom that means at that very moment. And then ad Januam is a prepositional phrase meaning at the door, and then Capona is genitive, so it's at the door of the inn. But we've got to skip all the way down here to homo abesus to find our subject. Homo is the Latin word for man, whereas abesus means fat. So a fat man, apparuitir, is a vocab word that they've given us, which means appeared. It's in the perfect tense, which is something you'll learn in some of the chapters coming up. But perfect tense just means that we translate it in English in the past tense, and it's to be a completed action. So we just want to put the letters ed at the end of appeared. So a fat man appeared where? At the door, and kalponai there is genitive and singular, so you're going to translate it at the door of the inn. And what did he do? Kui. Kui is a relative pronoun meaning who revocavit, called back. That's another vocabulary word here. Called back canes, the dogs. Dogs there is accusative and plural. And it has a es ending, which in the third declension could be nominative or plural, nominative or accusative, but it really needs to be accusative because revocavit here is third person and singular. You can't have a plural subject with a singular verb. So in this case, it's the fat man who called back the dogs. And dogs there is going to be a direct object. All right, next sentence. Salvete hospites inquit. Salvete is a greeting. So greetings, and then hospites just means guests. and this is going to be vocative and plural, because he's directly talking to the guests. And inquit, he said. Next sentence, in Caponai, mia pranactare voltus. Voltus here contains both our subject and our verb, and it's translated as you all are wanting. You all are wanting. It's from volo vele, and it's second person and plural. So we've used you all to translate it. You all. The all there is implied because it's plural. You all are wanting pranactare, to spend the night in Capona mia, in my inn. Next sentence. Hic multi cives proclare pranactaverant. Hic is an adverb that means here. Multo cives praeclare is our subject. Cives is masculine, nominative, and plural. It's from a third declension noun, civis civis. That means citizen. I know that it's masculine because multi and praeclare seem to modify it. And these words here are definitely masculine, nominative, and plural. They're second declension, first and second declension adjectives. And so that I there is going to be second declension, masculine, nominative, and plural. So here, many, the way you'll translate this, many distinguished citizens, and then pernactaverant is a vocabulary word, have spent the night. So this is the way you translate the sentence, but let me just point out that multi cives and praeclare is a noun adjective pair. Multi and praeclare are first and second declension adjectives. However, they are modifying the third declension noun cives. And this works because they are all the same case number and gender. All three of these words here are masculine, nominative, and plural. So even though they don't have the same letter as their ending, right? Praeclare and multi have the letter I, whereas cives here has the letters es as its ending. That doesn't matter because within their particular declension, they are the same case number and gender, and that's what counts for adjectives modifying nouns in Latin. Let's go ahead and do the last sentence. Olim hic pernactavit etiam legatus principis. Olim is an adverb that means once, kind of once upon a time, like in a fairy tale. Hic is a Latin adverb meaning here, once upon a time, here. Then pernactavit is our verb, and that would be translated as has spent the night. Etiam is another adjective that means even or also, and our subject is here with legatus principis. Legatus is the Latin word for envoy, like a very official messenger. So one time, even an envoy, and who was this envoy working for? But the emperor. Principis there is genitive and singular. It's a third declension noun. Envoy of the emperor. And then we can get rid of this has here. But spent the night. Once upon a time, an envoy of the emperor even spent the night here. Next sentence. Salve, mia Polydore, interpellavit Euclides. Salve is just a greeting, right? So greetings, and then me Apollodore is translated as my Apollodorus. Apollodorus is the name of the innkeeper. As we're about to find out, Euclides and him actually know each other. Then interpellavit is interrupted. It's to be translated in the past tense with the letters ed at the end of interrupt. Interpellavit is a perfect tense verb, which the book hasn't formally introduced yet, but you're going to learn about it soon enough. And then Euclides. Remember, that's the tutor for the Cornelii family. So, greetings, my Apollodorus, interrupted Euclides, and he's going to ask, quid agas, which is a Latin pleasantry, meaning, how are you? Quid agas, how are you? Next sentence. Mi Hercule respondit Calpo. Mi Hercule is a Latin interjection that means by Hercules. So, by Hercules, responded Calpo, responded the innkeeper. And with this particular word, respondit, it's also perfect tense, and it's third person singular, so you just need to render it in the past tense in English, so add an ed there. So by Hercules responded Calpo, the innkeeper. Now let's go on to the next sentence. Nisi ero meum amicum Euclidem agnosco. Nisi ero is a vocab word, and it means unless I am mistaken. So, unless I am mistaken. And then meum amicum Euclidem. All three of these words here are in the accusative case, and they're singular and masculine. Remember that meum amicum here is a first and second declension adjective, whereas Euclides is a third declension noun. And then we've got our verb here that also contains our subject with agnosco. And agnosco means to recognize. So, unless I am mistaken, I recognize meum amicum, my friend Euclides. Non eras inquit Euclides. Eras is from ero errare, that means to err or to wander. It's second person and singular, so I'm going to use the word you to translate it. The word is also negated with the word non, so you do not err. Inquit Euclides, said Euclides. Laetus te video, happy to see you. Happy to see you, or maybe video would be I see you. Video being the Latin verb to see, and it's first person singular, so I'm using the word I to translate it. Te here is your direct object. You'll learn about pronouns like this in a couple of chapters. Its case is accusative and singular, so you here is going to be our direct object, I see you. And laetus is an adjective that means happy, seemingly modifying the subject I here, like I happy see you. And happy to see you just seems to make a little bit more sense. That's the way that we would render this in English. So happy to see you. Next sentence. Quod rida domine me infolsa haerat immobilis necessa est hic in capona pronactare. Long sentences like this need to be broken up in two. Makes it a little bit easier just translating it from the beginning of one clause to the end of that clause. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's see how far we can go translating left to right before we have to jump around and find our verb. Quod is the Latin word for because. It's just a conjunction. Rida here seemingly is our subject. It's feminine, nominative, and singular. So because the carriage, and then domini mei. Domini could be masculine, nominative, and plural, or it could be masculine, genitive, and singular. And same with me here. That's modifying domini. It's right next to it, and they've got the same letter as their ending. So I'm going to go out on a limb there and assume that me is modifying domini. To tell the difference if it's nominative plural or genitive singular, I do need to jump down to the verb here, herat, which is from herio, herare, which means to stick. Herat here is third person and singular. So I need a singular subject in order to carry out the action of this verb stick. And that's going to be the carriage, the rida, which I've already established is feminine, nominative, and singular. That's key here. Domini can't be my subject, because if domini was a subject, it would be plural. and you have to have a plural verb to go along with a plural subject. So this one, domini here, is definitely genitive and singular. So we'll translate domini mei as of my master. Because the carriage of my master, and let's clean this up, because the carriage of my master, heret, is stuck, immobilis, motionless, in fossa, in a ditch, because the carriage of my master is stuck in a ditch. Clean this up. Necessa est, hic in capona prenactore. Necessa est is an impersonal verb phrase. It's translated, it is necessary. Est there is present tense, third person singular. That needs to be complemented with a infinitive. So it is necessary to spend the night where? Hic, which means here, in capona, in an inn, or in the inn. You could say an, or the, or even your inn, since it's implied that Apollodores here owns this inn. Because the carriage of my master is stuck in the ditch, motionless, it is necessary to spend the night in the inn. Next sentence, doleo in quod calpo quod rada est in fossa, sed gaudio quod ad meam caponam nunc venetis, intrat omnes. We'll start from doleo down to in quod calpo. Doleo just means I am sad. And then in quod calpo, said the innkeeper, quod rida in fossa, because the carriage, and then est there is just the Latin word for is in fossa, in a ditch, said gaudio, quod ad meam caponam nunc venetis. Let's clean this up. Said is just the Latin conjunction but. Gaudeo is a verb that means I am glad or I rejoice. And this particular verb here is present tense and first person singular, so I've used the word I to translate it. But I am glad. Why? Quod, because. And then ad meam caponam is a prepositional phrase that means to my in. But we need to skip over this prepositional phrase and go straight to our verb venetis, which is from venio venire. It's the verb to come. It's second person and plural. And so I'm going to use the word you all to translate it. You all come to my inn. And then nunc is just an adverb that means now. But I am glad because you all come or even are coming to my inn now. Last sentence. Intrat omnes. Intrat is an imperative. Remember that an imperative issues a command in Latin. And this particular imperative is coming from intro, intrare, which is the verb to enter. So he's telling them to come in, come in. Just as a review, how you make imperatives, you take the infinitive form of a verb and you remove its re at the end of it. So you remove the re. This leaves you with the root. And if you're going to issue a singular command, you would just leave it alone, like this, intra, if Apollodorus was telling one person to come in. If you want to make it plural, like he does here, you add the letters te, and so you're issuing that command to a group of people. And that's how we get intrat. So come in, and then omnes just means everyone. Come in, everyone. And that does it for chapter 18. Nice work.